Welcome back to No More Waffle. Today I am joined by Matt Baldock, one of the Baldock brothers. There's definitely a gag there, but I'll leave it alone. I'll pass over to Matt for episode 1, who is, like all guests on the podcast, fantastic, highly experienced, credible property professional. Matt, welcome to the pod.
Hey Ben, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet me. Look at that, credible.
Yeah, good to see you again. Yeah. You're off to a good start.
That's how we like to start a pod.
Yeah.
It's the nerves.
Yeah.
You know, we've got the entire crew here. So Matt, look, let's just dive straight into it. Question number 1. What's the one truth about the property industry you think most people, especially the public, still don't understand, and why?
I think the one truth that the public don't get, and actually a lot of agents don't understand, is that estate agency is more about people than it is about property. And I think heavily about people. And I always used to say, when we were interviewing, because you know you will do the same. People were interviewing, they'll go, "Oh, I really love property," you know. And I'm like, you know, if you love property, become an architect. If you love money, become a broker. But if you're interested in people and you love people, become an agent.
Yeah, that classic interview line. I like to watch location, or
I'm addicted to right move.
Yeah. And so you're absolutely right. So elaborate. Because right now, the hundreds and thousands of people watching who are not agents are thinking, well, surely the game is about property. What do you mean? Why is it not?
Okay, so for me, houses or flats, but if I'm just going to use the term houses just because it's easier, they're unique, right? So they're not a product. So they're actually the vehicle for our life journey. Without trying to get too deep, but that's what it is. So whenever something good's going on in your life, so you're having children, you're getting a promotion, you need to generally move, you know, something work takes you away or you need more space. And then actually, probably more importantly, something really bad happens. So let's say a death or divorce, that always causes you to move as well. And it's not like you're selling a car, you know, it's not like someone's going to go and say, well, you know, a BMW and a Mercedes, they both have the same kind of spec, you know. Houses are really personal, they're real, they're actually homes. You have so many good memories, so many bad memories in this. You'll get people that they'll probably put an overinflated value on something where they live because of all the good times they've had. Or I've had people try and give their houses away because they hate them so much. And you know, and you've kind of got to stop them doing that. But when you understand that you're every day you're dealing with humans, and humans are going through a whole range of emotions, and their emotions will change depending on the day they wake up, what happened that morning, how their commute to work was. But the house stays the same. So once you've seen the kitchen's always going to be where the kitchen is, the 3 bedrooms always going to be where the 3 bedrooms are. But the people's, their kind of emotions will change and their needs will change. And because transactions take a ridiculously long time to go through, things can then change over, you know, kind of, well, literally overnight. So as agents, we're always having to manage expectations, but also emotions. And that is it's the gift and the curse. For me, it's the best thing about the job. And it's why I've done it for 24 years. But also it can be the toughest part of it as well, because I think the really good agents actually soak up a little bit of kind of those emotions, and they wear that heavily on their shoulders.
So this is so let's get into the emotional side, because I completely agree it's a people business, not a property business. I completely agree that from an emotion perspective it can be quite draining. As an agent, you're helping to manage the emotions of other people, and there are so many stakeholders involved in any transaction. So you've been doing it 24 years and you love it, clearly. Firstly, why on earth would you love something that's so challenging?
I genuinely think it's like an honour to do. I was writing about this once on LinkedIn or something like that, and some guys commented me and said, "Oh, if you like helping people that much, you'd become a doctor." And I was like, "Mate, I can't stand the sight of blood," you know. And I'm maybe not that clever, but so I'm a big fan of life stories. I think that's actually all we've got. So you go through life and you've got some really good stories, some really bad stories, but I like the idea of sitting around a pub and talking about your stories. And so, as an agent, what you get to do is you get to be in so many people's life journey, only for a short amount of time.
Short amount of time?
Yeah. And yeah. In the grand scheme of things. Okay. But you get to play a really important role. So that person's going through a lot of stress, even if it's good stress, it's still stress. And moving home is very stressful.
Yeah.
And you kind of get to help them you know, with that. And I've got some, you know, I've got friends that have become clients. I've got clients that have become friends. But either way, I just think it's an honour to kind of dip in and out. And as I say, I find people interesting. So, you know, don't get me wrong, without being disrespectful to people's houses, I've seen enough kitchens, I've seen enough landings, I've seen enough hallways, but I've only ever met that person once. And everyone's slightly unique in their own ways. So that's why I enjoy it.
To sort of explain it in a bit more detail, what I want to talk about is your experience and why in 24 years, you know, people may or may not know Matt. If you work in the industry, maybe you've been hiding under a rock and you're not familiar with Matt and the businesses and the success he's had over the years. But if you're a consumer and you're not in his particular area of the world, you may not know Matt. But Matt's been a brilliant agent for an extended period of time. What is it? You like people, you like stories, but if I'm a consumer and I'm looking for an agent, what should I be looking for? From your experience, what makes a great agent?
Empathy has to be the number one skill. Empathy, honesty, and integrity. You all kind of choose words, but if you really want to break it down, you need someone that's not going to bullshit you, even if it's not what you want to hear. So I think the best agents tell people what they need to hear rather than what they want to hear. You know, if you want someone to come and blow smoke up your arse and tell you you've got the best house on the street, it's the best thing they've ever seen, there's a plethora of those agents down the high street, you'll find them. But to have somebody who is actually risking the fact of not winning your business, they're risking their finances to be honest and tell you the truth, that for me is key. And then also so let's say you're going to probably work with that person for 6 months. So first of all, you have to actually think, can I stomach this person for 6 months? You know, every time this person phones, am I going to go, oh Christ, not him again? Yeah. So you have to be able to get on with them, but you have to also genuinely understand, not believe, because they can convince you. So you actually have to understand that they've got yours and your family's best interests at heart, and they're going to kind of fight your corner and be there for you. Because as you say, you're going to have, you know, let's take a typical, you know, let's say there's husband and wife selling a property, they've got a couple buying their property, so that's 4 people all of a sudden, 4 emotions. They've got a conveyancer each. Conveyancers are humans too, despite what people say. So, you know, all of a sudden we're at 6. Maybe there's a couple of mortgage brokers there, so 8. So there's a lot of people that you have to kind of handle, and they've all got their own agendas, and you need to make sure the agent's kind of is working for you.
So what you've just described there is the most simple chain possible.
Yeah.
And that, you know, for people that, I guess the vast majority of people are not buying and selling every week. We do it on a daily basis. And so it's funny what you get used to, what becomes normal in your head. Whereas for the average consumer who might move house, I don't know, every 7 years, it's blow your mind stuff when they find themselves stuck in the middle of this and working out what to do, and there's so many people to talk to, and, you know, why is that person's, you know, emotions more important than mine? And so back to what I originally asked, you said empathy, integrity, honesty, which is hilarious, isn't it? That we have to say that these things are important. This is what you should be looking for. I don't know, you know, that
it's utterly ridiculous. Like, we've got like almost a charter that I use for my team, and we have like something that we'll tell the customers. And like the last one is the most stupid thing I've ever had to write, but it says, "We won't lie to you."
Yeah, I mean, it's wild, isn't it?
And you know, it's crazy you've got to say that, but you have to.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know what? Yeah, agents get there's a lot of negativity. What's that saying? Something about the stupid ones make the most noise. And so I think when it comes to negativity, that just causes a lot more disruption. But actually, I think the vast majority of agents care. They're trying to do a good job. They want to do the right thing. But that's not sexy. It doesn't grab headlines. My agent did a good job. That's just dull. But my agent lied to me. I'll tell 10 people that.
Yeah.
The other thing, though, is that as a society, it seems like dishonesty is just a bit more common. Like, that's just a thing now, that you might embellish, or you might, you know, I don't know, when getting my offer accepted, I might tweak what my position is actually and tell you in a couple of weeks I've actually got to sell a property. I'm not chain free. You've got 24 years, I've got 20 years in it. Have you noticed any change in how not just agents behave, but how maybe the general public behaves?
I can't work out if the public have got more unreasonable, or I've just got old and a bit more.
Both?
And a bit more grumpy. I do think, and I think this probably goes wider than agency, it just goes to the world. I think with the prevalence of social media, stories spread a lot quicker. So the world is worried about a lot more stuff. And as you say, bad news always hits the headlines. Right? You never turn on the news and someone goes, "Oh, today was a good day. You know, everything's all right."
Yeah.
So there has to be the negativity. The algorithms are twisted to show you the negative things because that's what it gets more of a reaction. So I do think that we live in a bit of a social media is the holiday brochure of life. So we always want to kind of compete with other people. So you'll see your friend having this big house. You go, well, I want to kind of get that big house. And I'm sure you had it in your agency, but when interest rates shot up, we had a lot of people saying, well, that's not fair because my friend Sandra, you know, and I was like, well, that's just the way it works. Life isn't fair, unfortunately. And yeah, I think because the public may become with this perception that it's almost like a game. It's a bit of a battle. So rather than going, right, I want to buy a house, I'm going to go and work with this agent to get me what I want, they're like, well, the agent's going to try and trick me, so I'm going to come into it and kind of try and trick
Everyone's
them.
guarded.
Yeah, everyone's kind of guarded. I had one once when I was showing someone a flat and they just wanted to buy it, and it was him and his mum, and he went, right, and it was like, remember Dragon's Den, they used to go to the wall? It's like, we need a chat. They literally just, I was only in a small flat, and they like walked
negotiating in the corner.
Yeah, Spike, they come back like, we'll pay the asking price. And I'm like, fine, you know, that's okay. But I think most of the time what people have to understand is the agents actually, they want to sell houses, that's how they get paid. They generally want to help you. Nobody wants to go to work and have arguments and no one wants to have a tough life.
Yeah.
So on the whole, people, they do actually want to help you. I don't think the public always fully understand that the agent has to act for the seller because they're paid by them.
And I think there's this blurred line with a lot of bigger agencies. Maybe it's unfair to quote corporates here, but the less experienced negotiators, they behave in a way as though they are representing the buyer. They build a stronger bond with the buyer. They spend more time with the buyer, and then there's this blurred line that actually the agency works for the seller, for the client, but the buyer, you know, no one said it, but the buyer naturally feels like that negotiator is working on their behalf because I've got the relationship with you. And so I see this all the time on social media where someone will post something like, managed to get this agreed for my buyer today. Like, oh, they're not your buyer.
No,
you've sold your client's home, and you just got to be really, really careful. And I understand.
Well, I think the bit that, obviously we all see behind the scenes is there's a lot of agency trainers out there, and they're trying to explain to people, because there's a frightening state, isn't there, that a really low amount of people that buy a house will then sell it through the agent they bought it from, right? So then the training is, you've got to really be nice to the buyers and look after them because they're going to come and sell. And when you're only selling, and I don't think it's even, people even move every 7 years now, I reckon we're more like 12 or something like that. It's a long game. So it's like, well, you've got to be nice to the buyer because you want them to come and sell through you again. You want them to recommend you. But really that's not the way it should kind of work. In an ideal world, the buyer would kind of think to themselves, oh, they did a really good job for the person that was paying them and didn't get me what I wanted because they got that person what they wanted. Yeah. But obviously, as humans, that's now we think.
Yeah, well, I've lost. Yeah, they got the most money out of me. I feel hard done by. But actually, that's the perfect agent for me. They're driving the best possible, I don't know, return, be it price, speed, whatever it might be for their client.
Yeah. The key to any deal really is everybody has to feel. Well, people say, oh, it's a win-win. I say it has to be fair. So the seller has to think what they've got is fair. Yeah. The buyer has to think what they've got is fair. And that's generally how we try.
And if both parties are happy.
Yeah. And that does go. So while we're working for the seller, that also means having tough conversations with them. So sometimes you will have sellers that are unreasonable. And it can be, well, I'm paying you, actually, if you're paying me for my advice. So my advice is, you're being unreasonable here. This is what's fair. Because, as we've said, because a deal can take 4 to 6 months to go through the conveyancing process, if you start that and somebody's got the hump, any reason to pull out,
you're on the back foot.
You're on the back foot. So everyone has to kind of go into it friendly and amicable.
I mean, I've heard people, you'll be in, I don't know, we'll be at a conference or something, and we'll be interacting, and you're catching up with your mates, you're seeing people there, and then you hear someone on a negotiation, and they're putting an offer forward to their client, and you can tell it's a tricky one. Maybe it's not the figure they thought it was going to be, but maybe the buyer position is strong. And you can tell that the agent's advice would be, this is probably the right offer, we should probably move forward with it. But you hear the sentence, well, look, it's not down to me to tell you. And I always think, that's wild. That's exactly your job. That is literally what they're paying you for. And if we've brought people into our old business, and very few that we brought in had experience. Roughly 15% of anyone came into the business had experience over the years. And some of the statements that you hear, like these things they've picked up over the time, and you think, That's the opposite of a estate agency.
Yeah.
If we're suggesting that it's our client's job to make the decision, to come up with a justification, what are we being paid for? But yeah, so let me just go back to, you said there's a lot of industry trainers out there. I keep seeing someone, it might be Chris Watkins, saying there's not enough industry trainers. Is there enough?
Well, and again, going back to like the algorithm, I suppose my world where
sure.
I am,
okay. They're all over you.
Like,
They know you need support.
Well,
so
no. It seems like in anything. It seems when the market gets tough and houses are hard to sell, a lot of people say, "Well, I'm not going to sell them anymore. I'm going to teach people how to sell them." It's that's the easier money, I guess. So, but I still don't think there's probably not a training standard out there. I've got 3, so I had one yesterday, one today, and one going out tomorrow. I've got 3 videos going out because I'm trying to buy a house at the minute myself.
Okay.
So I'm having a whole world of different viewing experiences. So I've got 3 videos going out showing the most basic of viewings, because I've been shown houses by people who I don't think. So you walk around and go think, oh, they were shit. But then when you kind of calm down a bit, you're like, I don't think they've been trained properly. So video 1 was clear the driveway to let me park on it. But you're laughing, right? But
yeah.
But number 2 is know where the boiler is, and number 3 is actually have a bit of a strong conversation with your seller about they should go out while you're doing the viewing, or and that thing. And it's stuff like somebody actually commented on and said, "Oh, do you think this is a training issue or just common sense?" And I was like, "Well, common sense isn't that common." And also, you don't know. And I think we do sadly live in a world, and the corporates mainly, but I know some independents that do it. Someone starts, they're new, they're young. They get thrown a set of keys, go and show that house. On the drive there, their mind's going, they'll be excited, they'll be panicking, so they won't think about the driveway.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a standard of training as such. And then I do think there's a lot of, and again, it'll be the same in all works of life. You'll have some trainers who are fantastic, you'll have some that are stealing a living.
Sure.
You're regurgitating the old stuff. Do you know in France, which they charge 5%?
Yeah, you do like that one. Yeah, that's really interesting. So there's something that you said that I say quite often. It's unfair to blame the individual. You've got to look beyond the individual because they haven't been trained.
Yeah.
As far as they know, if this is how they've been shown to do it and they're doing it exactly how they've been shown or not shown, then it's not on them. We were on holiday over the summer and it was a disaster. We went to what was meant to be a really nice hotel and the service was awful. It's like they were going out of their way to get things wrong. Food and beverage mainly. And whilst you're on the holiday, I'm just like, oh, we paid a lot of money to be here. We've got the whole family. It's ruined the experience. But off the back of it, I just think these poor guys have got absolutely no idea they're doing anything wrong.
No.
They've got very little experience of being the consumer themselves in that environment. And so they have to have thorough training. And it was so clear they'd just been left to their own devices. And so I feel that's the same across the board. Out of interest, as a buyer, do the agents you're viewing with, do they know you're an agent?
Yeah, so I tell them.
You do, okay.
Because I think actually legally I have to tell them.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah, 79, I think, but I always rather like an edge on the side of caution. So most of them know me anyway, because obviously I'm a big deal. But I just tell them because I don't want them to think I'm trying to get on their mailing list or something.
Sure. Okay.
Although one of them did just randomly add. So I'm trying to buy a 3 or 4 bed house, and yesterday I got sent an email shot with a load of 1-bedroom apartments on it.
Solid.
So it's still kind of happening, and it's those little things that they're just little things that we'll laugh about them. But if you're in the public, I suppose you don't have any experience of this, and you're trying to buy something, that would really start to piss you off.
Yeah.
And it's like most things in life. It's probably the little things are more annoying than the kind of big things. So if we could try and stamp out those little bits,
the nigglies,
then that would be a start.
And they're the easy things to stamp out, aren't they? Just quite often say you're a little bit like you're 1-0 up or you're 2-0 up, and you're in control of the game. The game is yours to lose, as opposed to theirs to win. And it's the same, I think, with these little things. You're in complete control over these things. You get them right, it's okay. The big things that go wrong, quite often, you don't have that much control over. Someone changes their mind, someone pulls out, something comes up in a survey. They're the majors that actually you won't be blamed for them if you do all the little things really well. You've shown competency, professionalism, then you're doing your best work. I want to come back to what I was originally asking about best agent or what makes a great agent. So you've got some experience at the moment, you're out on viewings. One of the questions I've asked people in the past is, do you think to sell a house you need to have experience as having bought something or sold something? Are you a better agent if you've got lived experience? What do you reckon?
I think it helps. Yeah, most definitely.
Is it essential?
I don't think it's essential.
Okay.
But I think you just have more of an So I was an agent before I bought my first property. And what used to drive me mad was when people would, so I'd phone for feedback, and people wouldn't tell me why they wouldn't buy it. They just kept saying it wasn't for them. And in 24 years, I can't think of anything else to call it other than the feeling. I think you walk into a house, get a little tingle down your spine, you go, this feels like home. But when I hadn't bought a house, people were saying, oh, it just wasn't for me. And I was like, what? It must be the kitchen. You know, we'll paint the living room. And
Is it the price?
And it just drove me mad. Because also, you kind of had a pressure to tell the owner something. Yeah. Whereas now I've bought properties, and I've bought properties that on paper I didn't like, but I've kind of walked in and thought, yeah, this is where I want to live. I understand that. So now if I'm doing some client-facing work and seeing a potential house seller, I will tell them, we will try to get you constructive feedback, but just a lot of people will just say it just wasn't for us. Because you could walk into two identical semi-detached houses next to each other and prefer one to the other,
for sure.
and not be able to explain why. But I think having bought and been through that bit myself, I do understand it. Having said that, if I'd been, because I wasn't trained, I was just throwing some keys, go and show a house. If somebody had taught me that, and I'd been open to listening,
yeah,
mate. But I think it's like most things in life. If you've got a bit of experience in it, again, it goes back to the empathy thing. So the other thing is, I've woken up with a raging hangover on the day I was due to exchange on a house sale, checked my phone and had a text from the office saying your buyer's pulled out, and the hangover just makes it worse. I probably didn't actually need to mention that bit, but so because I've lost a buyer on the day of exchange, I understand the emotions. So when I'm like having to phone someone to say their buyer's pulled out, not that I go, oh, it happened to me. So no,
but you're right. The story I tell quite often is we used, again, in the old business, we had a brilliant member of the team. She was amazing. She started off in an admin position and sort of gradually progressed. She was a single parent. Her son was 4 years old, and actually the support system in this country is horrendous. We couldn't progress her because she had hit her threshold for what she could earn with us. Otherwise, her child benefits would have been stopped. And so for it to be financially benefit to her, we had to increase her salary by roughly 50%. And so that's never going to happen. Like, it's not the jump from position A to position B, there's not enough there. And so it was real frustration because it sort of ended up creating a bit of a wedge, actually. And we ended up losing her out of the business because of this ridiculous tax credit system we have. Anyway, she was brilliant, but she was also a bit of a nightmare because, like any single parent with a 4-year-old, kids get sick or they have problems. And so every couple of weeks, you'd have to have a day off, and it used to drive me around the bend. But it was perfectly acceptable because she was brilliant. Yeah. But it's still, for 10 minutes, when I got that text message in the morning, I'd lose that 10 minutes because I'm fucking off again, it's so frustrating. I couldn't appreciate it until I had kids.
Yes.
I just couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't get my head around that. And within like a year of having a kid and seeing hospital appointments, go to the doctor, there's a bit of a cough, or all the things, and now I get it because I've lived it, and I completely empathise. And now when people have kids for the first time, my first thing is, good luck.
Yeah. Because it's funny so when you said it was acceptable because she was brilliant, that was Ben pre-children.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to put words in your mouth. It's acceptable because she was a mum.
It's acceptable, because she's a parent.
Right.
Because it's life,
and that's life. And so you go for it. Yeah, my 14-year-old missed the dodge out of the part of the dodgeball yesterday, and now his little finger faces the other way. So
I've got a couple of them.
Yeah. So again, I had a couple of meetings yesterday. I had to cancel to go down the hospital, kind of get X-rayed. I'm meant to be meeting another agent after seeing you today, but I'm going to have to cancel that because we've got another hospital appointment. Yeah. And these things happen, and you do understand. But so. Yeah, I know you can be a very good agent if you're open to learning, but I do think life experience just helps.
So I want to put it right back to what I originally asked. I'm a consumer, I want to sell my home, and I need to select an agent. What would you suggest that I do in terms of interviewing to proper dig into empathy, whether it's true, legit, whether they're going to tell me the truth, which is something you pointed out, we've discussed, the hard truth, and there was a term you used. You said not whether you believe.
Whether you understand.
Understand, yeah. So how does a consumer assess that in what's maybe, I don't know, 30 to 60 minutes?
So I suppose a lot of it is going to go on gut.
Okay.
And as the consumer and the public, they have to have a look at themselves as well, right? Because I always, so you remember the credit crunch? The big word then was responsible. Oh, but there wasn't responsible lending. And I was like, yeah, but there's also responsible borrowing.
Yeah.
Like if you took 125% mortgage, you should have understood that 125% is bigger than 100%, right? And you could get yourself in trouble.
Yeah.
And it is the same with consumers and buyers, sellers, well, and buyers, but sellers in particular, have to have a bit of a look at themselves. So if you're going to just go with the agent that tells you it's worth the most money and is going to give you the cheapest fee and it doesn't work out, then that's kind of your fault, right? I say to Purple Bricks customers, if you genuinely think I've got the biggest thing I'm ever going to own, my family live in it, especially when and I need to get my children into that school, so I'm going to give it to somebody who have a TV advert with a cow on it and and turn up and tell them they'll do it for 900 quid and it doesn't work out, then boo-hoo, right? That's your fault. And same. So it has to go. So you have to be sensible with things, and also ask for evidence. So if you're in someone's living room and you're giving someone a price, you should have evidence of where it's going to get there. Now, in the background, an agency, we can get in the semantics of do we really value property? Should we give a price? Should it be a marketing strategy, etc., etc. But on the whole, the public want to know a value, right? So even if you're going to give a range of prices, because again, no one can guarantee you anything, despite what they'll tell you, you should say, these have all sold for this, the market's done that, so I think you're going to get between A and B from there. How I'm going to get you that is I'm going to do, we live in a world now with, if anyone isn't talking about social media, if they're just coming and saying, I'm going to put you on Rightmove, that's great. Because again, what the public, 100%, if the public listen to anything on this, Rightmove is full of houses that haven't sold, right? And
there's your soundbite.
And you don't want to be another one of them. You don't want your price to make your neighbour's house look cheap. You want to look competitive. So, and a good agent should come around. They should have the data for what they're saying. They should have an actual marketing plan, not just I'm going to put you on Rightmove and wait for someone to phone me. But also, they should probably let you talk more than they talk. They should actually listen. They should understand. A lot of it, I actually think, is in the follow-up. So when the agents have been round, let's say you get 3, and then you get the follow-ups, do they just talk about their price and fee, or do they talk about your situation? Because what on the grand scheme of things, it sounds like you don't want to sell your house. You want to move from that house to that house. And obviously, with a certain financial, you either want some money in your pocket or you want to spend a bit of money. And so you want the agent to fully understand what you want and how they're going to get you there. And a lot of that time is in the follow-up, I think, or for how they're going to get there. And also, is there an air of desperation?
Because how do you spot that?
Dropping their feet, unless because I'll be in people's houses sometimes, we'll say it's fair, and they'll say, well, so-and-so agent told me 1.5, but they dropped it straight away to 1, like 0.5%, right? So, and that's their wages, don't forget. They've dropped their earnings. Okay? By a third. So I'm like, amazing. I was like, just let me know, like, what kind of negotiation training have you had then? They're like, well, what do you mean? I work in Tesco. I'm like, well, you've never been trained in negotiations? No. And you've got that person to take a third off their fee? Yeah, okay, great. Do you want that person negotiating the price of your house? And that's the bit that people don't understand. Because what you have to understand is agents don't want your listing, they want the sale, because that's how they get paid. So if an agent is willing to drop their fee to get your property, they're willing to drop your price to get their sale.
Of course.
Because they just want the sale as quickly as possible. So if you've got an agent who is over the top hungry, and almost desperate, oh, they're so keen to have my house, because no, they're so keen to sell your house. And so actually, are they going to give you the right advice, or are they going to push you to take the first offer that...
Exactly, yeah. It's speed over quality a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So, in terms of what a seller, prospective seller, could do, say, so gut feeling, yeah, I'm completely in agreement.
Yeah.
So I've got a good gut feeling about 2 of them. What should they be asked? Like, categorically, how can they... Well, what are a couple of great questions that are going to catch the wrong agent on the heels?
So you want the agents to do 2 jobs. You want them to find you a buyer and you want that sale to complete. That's the main bit you want, is actually finding the sale to complete. I think the horrible national stat is that 56% of properties that come on the market don't go under offer, right? Sorry, don't complete. So the agent. So you want to know the agent. Number one, what's their average time to find a buyer? What's their average percentage of the asking price they get? And another one is, how long does it take from finding a buyer to getting it to actually complete? And what's how many of the ones they actually sell actually complete? And
so you know, the average at the moment, national average is 19 weeks. That is wild. That is just insane. And so what you've got there is gut, emotion, how you sort of feel, and then logic justifies which one. The shortlist.
Your gut and so I have to deal with this person on a daily basis, for the next 6 months. Can I do that? Do I believe them? But also, what they're saying, can they back that up with that? And just so that the public knows, stats are so readily available now, it's unbelievable. So it's not only a few agents can have the stats, anyone's got them. And bearing in mind, it's their business. If they don't know their stats, then that's a
question
worrying.
mark. Yeah. Okay, so let's leave it there. If you don't know your stats, if you're an agent watching this, you need to get to know your stats. Matt will be joining us next week. We've got 3 episodes with Matt, so tune in next week where we'll be digging more into property industry, what we do, how we do it, explaining what goes into great agency. Only thing left for me to say is thanks, Matt.
No, thank you.
We'll see you next week.